Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Ian Kane podcast. I'm Ian Kane, your host, and it is day 4 of our daily gospel series. We're obviously in a new spot. Our other spot, which is literally just over there, not even half a mile away, not even a 0.1 mile away. It's pretty close. It was already taken, so we moved over here. I had to move this table to get this nice background, or you'd be staring at a sidewalk. So there are passerbyers coming on. Hopefully some random guy doesn't come over here and start sitting with me. But yes, we're in a new spot. So yeah, day 4. I'm kind of getting exhausted of this, but gotta persevere. It's kind of a promise to you guys. Daily Gospels. And today's daily gospel comes from, we finished 14 yesterday, so now we're on John 15, 1 through 8. Again, very short gospel passage, but it's a very powerful gospel passage in today's gospel. And it's a lot of signification. Jesus signifies a lot of stuff. Like this one is the vine and the branches. And it's a very tricky one because you have to follow along what he's saying. But a lot of his are tricky. But this one's specifically tricky for me. So we're going to read it, of course, and then we'll break it down into our usual sections or important details that we need to look at. So let's begin. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does he prunes, so that it bears more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word that I have spoken to you. Remain in me as I remain in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire, and they will be burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want, and it will be done for you. By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. There's a lot of important verses and some of my favorite verses in there from the Gospel of John. So again, we're going to break it down. So the first thing to understand this parable is that Jesus says that he is the true vine. So I guess Jesus is saying here that he is basically the tree. So we look at the trees in our background. Just imagine Jesus is one of these trees. And he then says that his Father is the vine grower. So his Father is basically the owner of the trees, right? He's the planter, he's the pruner, he's the picker of the trees. He's the person who takes care of the trees. And he takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that he does prune, he prunes so that it will bear more fruit. So he says that every branch that does not bear fruit, so we're the branches, us humans are branches, in this parable, the Father, God, will take the branch and throw it away. So basically burn the branch. And every one that he does prunes so that it will bear more fruit. So I think the thing that we need to realize, if you don't know what pruning is, it's basically snipping parts of the plant so it encourages growth. And I think what Jesus could be signifying here is that we undergo hardships in our lives, but some of those hardships are allowed by God because they will help us grow closer to God. And I think that's kind of, it's a little more hitting under there. You got to go deeper into the passage to realize that. But I think it's very important to realize that maybe that's what Jesus is saying, right? You are already pruned because of the word that I spoke to you. So he's speaking to the disciples, and he's saying that he already pruned him because, he's already pruned the disciples because they have listened to the word, and that tells you how strong Jesus' word is. And can the same thing happen to us while we're reading the word or listening to the word? And the answer to that is probably yes. Yes, it does, because Jesus' word has always been, the same for thousands of years, or like 2,000 years. But when the disciples first heard that, it was most important because this is the first time that God has ever spoken about this to actual humans. As a human. To actual humans as a human. So it's just really important to realize that. Remain in me as I remain in you. Remain in me as I remain in you. So, remain means basically stay and live with me, basically. And kind of in this theme of living with Jesus, right? Dwelling and Him making a house for us and heaven on the first day, basically. Remain in me as I remain in you. If you remain in God, God will remain in you. If you take action and want to live with God and you are part of Him, not in that sense, but like that's heretical, but like if you are His people, right, He's going to dwell in you, right? If you are a holy person, we all are called to holiness, He will dwell in you. And God always will dwell in you. There's a little piece of your heart that God has, and that's what kind of holding on to that feeling that you want to get closer to God. Jesus says a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine. So neither can you unless you remain in me. So a branch cannot bear fruit unless it remains on the tree, right? It cannot bear fruit. And that's his point there. If you do not live in Him and He does not live in you, nothing good will come from this. Nothing. It'll be pointless. Basically saying if you do not live with God and God does not live with you, it's pointless. There's no point to your life. And it's just, you're wandering around brain dead and you're just waking up every day to live your own will, which is just mumbo jumbo and not great, right? I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. And we heard that little first part, but because without me you can do nothing. And that tells you how strong God is, right there. How strong, even to the points of things that you couldn't even believe could happen, God can do. There's nothing too big for God. And that's, again, very important to realize. And this is refrained throughout all the Gospels and throughout all the books of the Bible. Anyone who does not remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire, and they will be burned. People will gather them and throw them into the fire, and they will be burned. It's kind of a tricky one. What is the sense of people? Are we talking literal sense? Are we talking spiritual sense? I think we're talking actual sense that people, but what does that really mean? Right. People will gather them and throw them out into the fire and they will be burned, right? We know that the bad branches will be burned, but is it God's people that will gather the bad branches and help God's kingdom rise over the evil in this world? If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want and it will be done. So much like I just said, nothing is too big for God. And I think that when we realize that, the things that will spring from that will be enormous. And that God can do anything when you have faith. When you have faith in God is the most important thing. And Jesus says, even if you have faith as the size of a mustard seed, look at a mustard seed, it's really small. You can move mountains with that little mustard seed of faith. You can move mountains, you can command one mountain to get up and move. If you have faith. If you have faith that God can do it. And that's just, I can't really even understand that because of how much can strive, or how much can come from that. And the last verse, by this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. The last part, very important, but by this is my Father glorified. And that goes back to the point, my people will throw them out into the fire and they will be burned. The Father will be glorified through that, through the holiness and all the branches being pure and bearing fruit, the Father will be glorified, because those branches, think about it, those branches, if they drop a piece of the fruit and that fruit has seeds in it, it's going to scatter, right? It's going to scatter and it's going to create new plants, and it's going to create new life and new life and new life. Those new trees are different people in that sense. So it's crazy that if you think that even one small act of humility, kindness, patience, obedience, gentleness, joy, or even a small act of just listening to somebody can be so powerful, and it can plant a new seed that God can then water and then grow. And that person repeats. So with that is another podcast completed. Day 4. It's been a really interesting 4 days. We've gone through basically all the weather. We've gotten nice weather, we've gotten rainy weather, we've gotten windy, we've gotten cold like today, but we're still out here again. And thank you for 200 subscribers if you watched to the very end. Again, I felt like quitting a few months ago. I just, I felt like I was not worthy enough, but now we're here. And I can't wait to see where this channel goes. And I hope that I can reach out to people. With that, I thank you guys for watching. And until next time, God bless.